This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I would call the Board of Review to order. Roll call, please, Chris.
President Kardowski.
Here.
Trustee Service.
Here.
Trustee Paul.
Here.
Trustee Zerbal.
Here.
Trustee Atkinson.
Here.
Trustee Krieger.
Here.
And Trustee Flukie.
Here. A motion or action on the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Move to approve by Jay, second by Kelly. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Action on the minutes from the June 7th, 2023 Board of Review meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
Move to approve and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, item 5, will receive the completed assessment roll and recognize the signed assessor's affidavit. Paul, I would assume that's the information sitting in front of Chris.
Yep, correct.
Is there any questions or anybody that wants to look through that or any questions on that, or Paul, anything to add?
No, nothing at this time, I don't think.
Okay.
I hereby certify the assessor roll and signature are correct.
Thank you, Chris. Item 6, hear objections and deliver final determination to each property owner. And I do believe we have one or two this morning, sorry. And if Mr. Gay is here, we could go ahead with that. Is that correct? Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Did you want to say anything, Paul, before we get started?
Not me personally, I don't.
Yeah, I can speak on that behalf. So, Mr. Gay, why don't you come forward and take a seat right here? So just for the Board of Review's information, I spoke with Mr. Gay yesterday. He did submit the notice of intent and object on the assessment before the Board of Review, and we spoke yesterday on the phone, and I received all your correspondence. Mr. Gay sold part of his lot to another individual in June of 2023, correct, sir?
Correct.
What he's contesting, Mr. Gay isn't necessarily contesting today the overall assessed value of the total lot or the total square footage. What Mr. Gay is contesting is that I believe he's arguing that he shouldn't necessarily be held at a higher tax rate because he sold half of the lot in June of 2023. What I explained is that the assessor looks at the valuation of the property as of January of the year for what the status of the property was the previous year. Basically, you're paying on the taxes of what the status was the previous year. I explained that to him. So I discussed that I don't necessarily know if this is the proper forum or the proper venue for Mr. Gay to hear those objections, as the board really just looks at if there's any contesting of the overall square footage or the overall assessed value. But Mr. Gay still would like to present his case and go forward with that. If there's any questions on that specifically, I know it can be a little complex, but I can.
No, I felt that summed it up well. And on the objection form, it shows his opinion of value.
Before you do it,
I'm sorry.
let's put you under oath. Are we ready to proceed? Is there any questions on that with my comments? Okay, let's put Paul under oath, and then Mr. Gay, before you speak, we'll put you under oath as well.
Okay, so again, the property owner is Robert Gay at 1050 West Main Avenue, De Pere, Wisconsin 54115, and that is the property in question. It is residential. Land is 87,800, improvement 144,300 for a total of 232,100. So if you would stand, please, and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony which you shall give in the matter now on hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God?
I do.
And just state your name and address.
Robert L. Gay, 1050 West Main Avenue, De Pere, Wisconsin, 54115.
Thank you. And then Paul, if you would, Assessor. You solemnly swear that the testimony which you shall give in the matter now on hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And state your name and address.
Paul Diener, Fair Market Assessments, at 2555 Continental Court in Green Bay. So this, if you look at the objection form, I don't, the reason we were talking if it's acceptable or not, is he states inaccuracy of square footage for the land, which this is for everything that happened in 2022. Assessments are as of the January 1st of each year. So like the parcel he created when he did that split, it's not even in my database. I don't get it till next year from the county. Anything that happened in 2023, I'll get like the third week of January from the county, and then I create all those splits, and then that gets applied to the tax bill in December of 2024. So I don't know how to approach this because it says inaccuracy of the square footage, which is not. I get after he created that split, it is now or it will be for next year. And I have, I don't know if people want to see where it says taxable real and personal property by January 1st of each year. And then I have screenshots from the county too. And I wish it were simpler or, better. Like, he's not the first one to have contacted me about this in the past. It's nothing I can do about it. I can't create the split or I can't create a new parcel until I get that information from the county. And it's always as of January 1st of each year. So I don't, like I said, I don't know if his objection form is allowable or I've never really seen it written like this where he has 177,300 or less and it states the inaccuracy of the square footage, which is not true. If I have his land at 1.569 acres next year, then that will be true. But I don't, this is a different one for me. I can't do anything about this.
So let's break it up a little bit, Paul. So what is the total lot, including the property, that you assessed this year?
His total lot this year is 1.569 acres.
And then what is Mr. Gay asking you to assess at now?
He's asking me to assess it at 0.753 acres, I believe.
And the reason for that is because Mr. Gay sold half of the lot in June of 2023.
Correct.
Okay, but you are assessing the total lot 1.5
1.569
as of January of 2023.
as of January 1st of 2023.
So can you go through your fair market assessment and analysis for the total lot, for the record?
For the record, like we have him, the lot he just sold was 0.75. Screenshot. So the lot he sold is 0.753. It was a perfect split. And that one is at $75,000 he sold it for. And it creates that comes out to $99,300 per acre, or $2.28 per square foot. So he sold 0.753 for $75,000. And his current land value at 1.569 is at $87,800 for twice the lot, twice the size. I don't know if everyone followed that. He sold half of his lot for $75,000, and the current land value on the total lot is at $87,800 for this year.
How'd you come up with that? If you want to go through analysis, Paul, just kind of for the record.
Well, the $202.28 per square foot, we looked at the percentage increase for the property too. If we're going through the improvements, which means the building, we have this house. It's an older home. It's a 2-story residence, old style home built in the early 1900s. We show 1916. But sometimes that can get skewed because nobody, the records back then weren't the best. For this particular parcel, for the entire parcel, there's no comparable sales. This one, just given its age and given the uniqueness of it, there's not too many to find where they're selling these, old homes. So we were looking at a price per square foot on the building of $72.17 per square foot. We have it as an average home, not in great or good condition, just kind of a typical structure, I suppose. To give you an idea, brand new homes are, depending on how nice they are, more like $200 or $220 a square foot or even more. Construction's kind of getting crazy right now as far as costs. So
Any questions for the assessor from the board?
So actually, the tax bill you sent him for this coming year is for the total parcel, with what he owned.
his assessment notice is for his parcel as of the first of the year. When
All right.
that, yeah.
But next year, that will reverse. Then that square footage that he sold of 32,820 will be removed
Yep.
from the tax roll. Am I correct?
That's correct.
So there's a variance in there of like 6 months? Am I reading this right here? He sold the property 6/29 of 23, so that means that there's a half a year from the first of the year to the 6/29.
As far as the sale goes, yeah. As far as my job and what state statutes go, it's in a calendar year. So it's as of January 1st of each year. So he could have created this on January 2nd, 2023. And I wouldn't be able to do it till next year.
Okay, it would make a difference.
It wouldn't make a
You
difference.
can't do nothing about that.
He-
I thought maybe there was
No.
some fudging we could do there.
He could have did it on January 1st, 2023, and I wouldn't be able to do it till next year.
Okay, all right, okay, understanding this then. So really, really the way the tax form works out, you pay that on the first day of the first of the year, where you can't do nothing with it then, till the following year.
I believe so, if I'm following you right.
Well, you're saying
Yeah.
on the first of the year, you start paying for the next year already.
As far as tax dollars,
can't-
like when the payment's due to the county or when you pay your actual tax bill, is that?
Right.
Yeah, yeah, so like the tax bill we're getting this December now is going to be for what happened in 2022.
Oh, okay, all right.
It's really like assessments are a year behind, and it really is hard to comprehend sometimes, but we have to wait for the entire year to come to a close, and then, or if you want to call it a close, and then we get like sales from the Department of Revenue come in February. And then we have to review all the sales in our municipalities, and then splits will come from the county usually like the third week of January.
Okay. So I guess I was just wondering if there's some way we could do something with those 6 months, but you can't do nothing with it.
As far as
What
state
you're saying.
statutes go, we can't, but when sales happen, it's always, figured out. Like, okay, the tax bill, we'll get calls all the time about, hey, I'm splitting this parcel, or hey, I'm putting on a big addition. How much do you think my taxes will go up? And we'll give them an estimate or an idea at that time before they do that. And then they'll work it out, or they'll try to figure out a way of how much their taxes will increase. And if they do sell, and it is in February, well, then the prior 2 months of what they paid in taxes usually gets proportioned out. That's done between the seller and the buyer. That is not done at a state level or at a government level. We have to go as of January 1st of each year.
Think of the buyer and seller paying their taxes in escrow at the closing of a property.
Correct.
That's where this,
Correct.
you kind of compensate for that when you sell it mid-year. The reason why the state statutes intend to have just a 1 month, it's just January, because it's the beginning of the year for this. Otherwise, the assessor will get inundated every month to accommodate the sales of a property. And that's why it's just one, this is what the
Yeah.
status of the properties are after every year. Otherwise, the county could be sending the assessor's office new land sales, new contracts, new condos, parcels, lots, houses. commercial properties for that matter, every single month, and then it would be up to the assessor to accommodate that sale every single month. So that's why it's just once a year, what is the status of the property? I know it's a little unique in the sense of, well, I don't own that, why am I paying on it? You're paying on the status of the property last year.
Yeah.
And how you compensate that with the seller or buyer, you pay the remaining of the taxes in escrow.
And everything that we've discussed here essentially is you're following state statute.
Yeah, I kind of, like I started when I first, or like I said, when I first started talking, I'm not sure how to approach this one because it's a inaccuracy of the actual square footage. And I can't do anything about that till next year.
I guess just for the record, to answer your question, Mary. So state statute 70.10, assessments when made exemption. The first line in that statute section says, the assessor shall assess all taxable property as of the close of January 1 of each year. If there's no other questions for the assessor, we can move on for questions, or for Mr. Gay's statements. Mr. Gay, if you will.
Okay, as far as the dates goes that you're talking about, you told me yesterday that they do review some of these findings in April also, right?
I don't know,
That's what
I
you
don't know,
told me
sir.
yesterday.
Excuse me, can you talk into the mic, because we're being recorded?
Well, that's what you had told me yesterday. So in April, sometimes they do go after findings, they look at and review.
I believe I told you open book is generally in April.
Oh, okay, so what difference does that make open book to this, as far as the taxes go?
Paul, you want to explain open book quick?
The open book is a time frame where people can contact me if they find errors in my assessment or if they do have a problem with the valuation. It's typically a 15-day period for a regular year, a 30-day for a maintenance year, a 30-day period for like a revaluation year. And the open book process is just the assessment roll is open for inspection. It's usually where it's with the clerk, and then people can come in and review it and see if there's errors, if there's issues with any valuation within it.
So, okay. Well, then, as far as that goes too, I'm looking back on all these sheets, and evaluation, my assessment was September 17th, okay? And then there was other dates on 6/19, my property taxes split up, surveyed out, okay? So you had that information at that point in time. So then you had all those things to review, and you said in April they can do it, but then I'm looking back on this Village of Ashwaubenon where the county splits it up, and the creation date was on 6/20. So that's all different dates there. It's not from January 1st. So what I'm asking you is there can be a review of it other than, like you said, April during this time. Is there any, because you just said open book thing, but even an open book, what difference would that make open book to this day? Could you do anything different?
The open book process is, once assessments are mailed, people have the state statute, they have 15 days to contact me. Within that 15 days, if you do not contact me or point out an error or a problem with the valuation, then the board of review meets and adjourns. I cannot, so that 15 days is the process for you to contact me. We send a notice, and the notice states it on it as well. And it shows that you need to contact me within this time frame. And
I did do that. 9/26, I sent it to you.
correct, yeah. But you contacted us about something that we can't change until next year. And as far as the September 17th, that was just when the notices were mailed. Notices, assessments, if it was another year, it could say June 11th, or, it's just when the notices are mailed. It has nothing to do with a deadline, like a state statute deadline or a county law,
Okay, well then, what you were saying yesterday to me, and you said, if I have to do this for you,
So, Mr. Gay, so rather than us go back and forth on what we talked about yesterday, why don't you just kind of present your case and why you want your tax bill or your assessment value lowered? And then we can get into more specifics, okay?
okay. Well, pretty much in a nutshell, I don't think I should be paying for somebody else's land. In the reevaluation period we were talking about, I'm only gonna go 6 months till the end of this year to higher tax rate. But then next year is not a reevaluation year. So that'll be reevaluated again, but all next year I'm gonna have to pay that higher tax rate because it's not a reevaluation year. Right?
Well, next year when it's the tax rate, whatever tax rate gets applied, tax rate gets adjusted every year, comes out in November typically. But once the split happens, yeah, your parcel of land will decrease because half of it's going to be gone.
I understand that, but I'm still gonna be paying higher taxes all of next year until 2025, right?
The
Because it's
tax
not a
bill,
reevaluation year.
the tax bill you get in December is going to be for what happened in 2022. The tax bill you get in December of 2024 is going to be for what happened in 2023. So how that translates to tax dollars, the best I can tell you is that the bill that comes out this December is going to have the 1.569 acres on it and that assessed at that acreage. And then the tax bill in 2024 is going to have the lesser value. So if you pay your bill, I mean, I don't know, I guess I don't know how to answer your question.
My tax rate's still gonna be higher yet all of next year. I'm gonna have to pay a higher tax rate because it's a non-reevaluation year, correct?
It's, no, like the tax bill
Am I hearing something wrong? I don't know.
the tax bill you just got, or the tax bill you just paid, say in December or June, that was for the prior year. So it will be at that higher rate. If you
Right.
look at it for the calendar year, you'll say, yeah, it is going to be at a higher rate because I can't do the split till next year. So to answer your question, yes, it will be at a higher rate.
So that's my argument for that.
Well, it'll be at a
So-
higher assessed value, not the tax rate. The tax rate doesn't change, it's across for all parcels.
So my question, or my comment, is that this evaluation is based on January 1, 2023, correct? Okay, so January 1, 2023, you owned 1.569 acres. So that is what your tax bill is on. So,
But the tax bill's still gonna be high for another year after that because it's not a reevaluation year.
no, we don't just reevaluate when you sell the land. That's not a reevaluation. But next year, when you look at your tax bill, it will have .753 acres on your land. It won't have 1.569. So that is what you will pay next year. But January 1 of 2023, you owned 1.569 acres, and that's what your tax bill will be. So I think that is the question, and we can't change that. January 1 of 2023, you owned this much land.
Okay.
So that's what, am I
Yeah,
understanding
that's
correct?
correct.
Okay.
So on January 1, 2024, he will be,
It won't be a revaluation year, but in a maintenance year,
but it'll be evaluated on the
I'll have to
lesser.
split that parcel. It's not like his building is going to increase or anything like that unless he takes out a permit for it. It's strictly to do the county split that I'm required to do.
Right.
Right, yep. It's a little bit semantics. I kind of explained to Mr. Gay yesterday. It's not a revaluation year next year, but the assessor will assess the property based on your sale. That makes sense. So there will be, what is the value of your property? What that lot gone
Okay.
off of it next year. Right.
So I just have one other comment with that. So if this is my case and it's kind of a rare case, right, or no?
But we get calls, but yeah, it's a rare one to have at the board review.
Okay, so and when you spoke to me yesterday, you said thousands of cases we'd have to reopen if we do reopen mine.
I'm sorry?
Isn't that what you said to me yesterday?
I don't recall ever saying that to you,
That's
Mr.
what
Gay.
you said.
You're saying we have to reopen thousands of cases?
If you do this for me, if you reopen mine or we go through the whole tax base.
Okay. Well, Mr. Gay, I'm just going to answer your question, okay? And then we'll kind of talk about the process here,
Okay,
okay? One, I don't recall ever saying that to you. Yesterday, we talked about what the Board of Review is going to look at in terms of the relevancy and the proper form for your objection, okay? Number two, this is not the proper procedure for you and I to discuss. If we want to discuss like the next steps of like what you can do in the meantime, we can have that off the record. The Board of Review is really just here to look at the appropriate value of your property.
Oh, okay.
All right?
But I have no other steps anyway, you told me that. Other
Mr.
than
Gay,
circuit court.
did you come to the open book session?
No, I.
Oh, this is your
I
first
had to work.
appearance here?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Well, no matter what, if I understand right, there's nothing we can do to change this
Right.
by law, by state statute.
Yeah, I
And we
couldn't-
can't do anything,
I couldn't if I wanted.
even if you wanted to. You couldn't do it for me, you couldn't do it for Mary, you couldn't do
The
it for,
parcel is not in my database. We get our information from the county, so it's not even in there until next year when I do another download, so. It's just, it's as of January 1st of each year, so.
right?
Mr. Gay, your concern about your assessment being higher in the future, like Mary had said, you will be paying for half of the parcel. So it still would be based on the values that were put forth in this assessment, but it will go down because you own less land. And they wouldn't reevaluate because this is based on what's there right now. It may go down because you have less property that you will own then. So it would not be reassessed, be based on what was currently done, which is the way it should be in January of this year, and then it'll go down based on less land in the future.
On the reevaluation years are every other year, correct?
Third year, correct?
A reval?
Revals are ordered by the village board.
Right.
They happen when you get out of compliance with state statutes. Sometimes revals don't happen for 10 years or 15. Sometimes if you got out of compliance, like the city of De Pere has to do one every year because they're out of compliance. So it depends on the municipality. It's just based on state statutes.
So in other words, you don't never know.
We know when we get the letter, or when it says you're out of compliance. Village of Ashwaubenon, I think, is on the trend of every 3 years about, but
Okay.
it all depends on the market. If the market goes poor, if something bad happens, like it did way back when, then it goes the other way. I believe in 2013, we had to do a reval to decrease people. So it works both ways.
Okay, I wasn't quite sure how that worked. But I thought it was every other year.
No, it depends on the municipality.
Mr. Gay, are you concerned that you're still going to pay taxes on the 1 point some acres
Yes.
next? That's not the case, right? Correct?
No, on his,
January 1, 2024, you will start paying taxes on half that,
Yeah, right.
At the
starting
higher
January 1st, 2024.
rate- At the higher rate or the lower rate, would I pay half?
Well, you're talking about two different things here.
Right, exactly. But
Yeah, the rates can change every year based on, some of our budget, things like that. But you're going to pay whatever rate that is that everybody else pays
Well, I understand. that.
come January 1st,
I'm not
2024.
disputing it. Oh. I'm just questioning is, you got the 1.56 acres, and with the new assessment was assessed over $20,000 more than the year before, okay? I understand I gotta pay that for the next 6 months. My thought process is, would I have to pay that for the next year? Because it's not a reevaluation year. It stays that route.
A property sale doesn't have anything to do with a reevaluation.
No, I understand that.
Right. So your property value, because of the size, will change.
yeah, it'll
Ne-
decrease next year, and
Correct.
the tax rate changes. I'm not sure, I think it never, I think it's like a 2% increase. I don't know that. I don't know how much they can or cannot increase it each year, but the tax rate typically doesn't change too much. And it's across all properties. It's not like it's a higher tax rate.
Right.
So it'll be applied at that same tax rate with that lesser acreage on your land. And it'll be the tax rate for everyone.
So then January 1 of this coming year, or December, whatever, 15th, you send no tax bills, if I'm not mistaken?
The county does, I'm not sure, the budgets get set when they get set. I think it's usually
Thereabouts.
mid-November, and then, yeah, sometimes, I wait for my bill like everybody else in Brown County, so sometimes it comes the second or third week of December. I never the third week, but like the second week by December, I think.
So will I get that tax bill, will it have the higher assessed amount on there
It will,
for the 1.5 acres?
it will.
But I will not own it, right?
Correct, because it's for everything that happened in 2022. I understand it's really late in the year right now, but it's for everything that happened in 2022.
Oh,
Yeah, taxes are always 1 year behind.
Always a year behind.
pardon me?
Always a year behind, correct.
Taxes are always 1 year behind.
So then I will not expect a change from this until the following year, correct?
Next year, probably by summer, May or June, July, you'll receive a notice from me, and it will have that lesser value on it, and then that will be applied to the tax bill for December 2024 that you get in the mail.
So that's what I'm getting at here. That whole thing is that's what I'm getting at. I'm still gonna have to pay a higher rate for basically a year and a half.
It would be the higher assessed value for,
Right, but it's only for, it's for 1.5 acres, right?
correct.
Not 3/4 acres.
It will be once we get to January 1st of 2024, you immediately go down to the lower amount of acreage. Immediately.
And my tax bill reflect that?
And the tax bill will reflect that. But you don't receive
not
that,
until
but
then.
you do not receive that tax bill.
Right.
Until November, December of 2024.
That's what I thought.
Right.
So that's basically what I'm talking about here. I want to get a clarification on that.
Yeah, you will get, but the tax rate gets set based on budgets, based on all kinds of things. It's not based, tax rate isn't based on evaluation. It's not
Okay.
based on assessed valuation. It's based on what the county, what the village board. So that's where the tax rate comes from. So your tax rate has nothing to do with the valuation, but it will be applied to the lower amount of acreage that you have, because next year you will have the 0.7 acreage.
Yep. Okay, so you don't review none of these anytime at all?
Unfortunately,
That's a,
by state law, we
can't do that,
can't
right?
do it. Yeah.
okay. Well, I guess that's all I got.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, if there's no other questions, I'll move to prove that the assessor valuation is correct.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Gay.
One other quick question. Can I get a copy of this meeting somehow? Sent to me?
It's available online, sir. It will be available.
Okay.
If you go to our website or YouTube, there's a YouTube link that will show the recording of it.
Pardon me?
There's a YouTube link, or you can get it on our website,
Okay.
ashwaubenon.gov, or it is available on YouTube as well. We'll be recording of it.
And Robert, I know this, don't be afraid to give me a call either. You know, if you have any questions moving forward, I know it kind of does get confusing sometimes. You're not the first person. Just give me a call, you know, if any questions or something come up, or I can have that link sent to you. Just call, email, let us know.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Gay.
Thank you.
It appears we have another review of American Family Insurance, and the representative is here. Chris, if you'd like to take over.
Okay, this case is of ARC CA AW BW 1001 LLC. And there's an agent here presenting, which is Daniel Williard. Am I correct here? Okay. The property we're addressing is 3500 Packerland Drive. parcel number VA-882. It's commercial. The land is $2,250,000. Improvement is $13,906,100 for a total of $16,156,100. So would you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that the testimony which you shall give in the matter now and hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And you state your name and address for the record.
Daniel Willard, 9229 Delegates Row, Suite 375, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46250.
And now the assessor. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony which you shall give in the matter now on hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And
Paul Diener, Fair Market Assessments, 2555 Continental Court, Green Bay.
thank you.
Before we get into any appeals,
Jan,
I was-
one second. We just got to, there's going to be a request for a waiver hearing from Assessor.
Mike, our commercial appraiser, and we reviewed this yesterday, once we received this information all last night, once he was able to review it. This is a unique property. They are somewhat dinosaurs, you know. It's a 145,000 square foot building with a active tenant in it until the end of 2024. It is not typical, and we're not, it's unique, and we feel like an expert should really review it before I or the board make any type of adjustment. And something like that is typically done by, you know, a real estate lawyer, an appraiser at the circuit court level. I just feel like it would be, we're talking big values here. And I'd feel more comfortable if, for any adjustments are made or anything, that this gets waived to circuit court and let it be worked out there. So before any appeal or any hearing happens, I'm requesting that the board waives this to circuit court.
Right, basically the procedure here is that there's a request by either the board, the taxpayer, or the assessor to bypass the board of review. They can go right to circuit court. Then an action is commenced within 60 days. There needs to be a justification for that, which the assessor stated on the record. If the board approves, there's a roll call vote for the approving of a waiver to go right to circuit court. There should be a justification from the board or findings of fact as why it's approving as well. Obviously, there can be an objection. Taxpayer or taxpayer's agent can certainly either agree to the waiving, go right to circuit court, or wants to have the hearing right now. So that is the procedure. So justification and the statements have been made by the assessor, by taxpayer's agent. Dan, do you agree for the waiver, or do you request the board of review here today?
We would object to the waiver and request the hearing take place today.
Okay. I guess at this point, Paul, do you want to explain?
I didn't. It can be requested at the assessor for the board to waive it. If there's an objection or not, we can't talk valuation or anything like that. I stated in my case that it should be reviewed or handled in circuit court by an expert. We do mass appraisal. You know, we do our best, but like a big mall or something like that, we're not expected to be experts on that type of stuff, or to further vet it properly before any type of adjustment would be made by anybody. I just feel like, you know, something like this should be reviewed by an expert or by someone in further litigation in circuit court who knows these properties and is unique and specific in addressing these types of situations. So that is my case.
We can fish that out a little bit more. Paul, what would change between now and going to circuit court?
Well, between now and going to circuit court, it would be, first off, it would be up to him or the property owner to continue and further push it in circuit court. Sometimes they do that, sometimes they don't. Sometimes, as you know, with prior, prior properties, if we can come to an agreement, then that circuit court never happens at times, even afterwards. So there's several different things that can happen. It's kind of just the next steps that I feel are necessary for this property. Mike and I both do.
Let me see this, Paul. For the board review's consideration, what will you do regarding the valuation of the property in terms of other appraisers or assessors for the property between now and circuit court? Expert opinions?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. We get expert opinions. We would get, there's another building in the Village of Howard that had similar situation where we got an expert opinion. There's lawyers and there's people, as I said, who do this specifically and they specialize in this. And I feel that would be necessary to contact them or to further review it, I suppose.
I guess for the board, are there any questions for the assessor? We can have a couple questions for Mr. Willard, right? Regarding that, and why it should remain here, but are there any questions for the assessor regarding why it should go bypass the board of review and go right to circuit court?
So, Paul, you're saying that because it's a unique property and a high-value property, that with your staff, you feel more comfortable going to circuit court and having the time for another expert that specializes maybe in the high-end commercial to look at it, do the assessment, rather than presenting it here at this point?
Correct.
I sat on this board of review for a number of years. We've never given any breaks to any large buildings of this size. I would feel as though he's going to have a better chance at moving on to the next step rather than doing it here, because like you said, Paul, it's too big of a project for us to understand. And it would be much more beneficial to you to be going to the circuit court with more expert people doing it.
Be beneficial for everyone. I think just to let this work itself out and get a fair value on the property, I feel beneficial for everyone.
All right.
Correct. You are correct.
So with the experts, then, they would look at outside other communities that are dealing with the same type of properties?
They would look at everything about it. It's stuff that I may not know because I don't specialize in it. I don't do the things that they do, for a living every single day.
Yeah.
It's just, I feel it'd be to get a fair value on it. If it does come to that, and sometimes it goes to circuit court after this, after we do the waivers, sometimes it doesn't. But it's just to have it properly vetted so we can get a fair assessment on the property.
Have we and I think for some reason I'm thinking we have in the past moved this on, something like this in the past at this board review.
Correct.
Because of the high dollar numbers.
Correct.
Cabela's, I think, was one. There's another couple of, Paul, do you have examples?
There's 2 years ago, there was one, and then I think a couple of years, this law, I believe, came out in like 2015 or 16, or this new change to go to circuit court. So it hasn't been too many years, but yes, I think there's been 2, but I don't know the exact number offhand.
Can I clarify, Paul? So if it gets sent to circuit court, so we're not going to discuss it here, we're going to send it on, in between time, it may not end up in circuit court because you would get experts and look at it and maybe
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Yep. It depends on how much further it goes, but correct, sometimes they do, and sometimes, the one we had 2 years ago, they waived it to circuit court, but it never continued.
any further.
We had further discussions, that parcel and I, and no adjustment was made, and they dropped the circuit court.
Okay, thank you.
For example, Tracy, I'm looking at one right now, that San Luis property. The former owners actually requested the waiver, and it was approved by the board. And the complaint was filed in circuit court, but the assessor and the taxpayer, San Luis, they came to an agreement before, and the circuit court action was dismissed. They stipulated to a different value.
Okay. So that could occur, you could stipulate to a different value,
Correct.
and then it would be acceptable to both.
Correct. And I really do feel it'd be beneficial for everyone, the property owner included.
Any more questions for the assessor? Mr. Willett, obviously you object to the hearing being waived.
do.
Justification for that, and if there's any questions from the board on that as well.
Yeah, well, we certainly recognize this is a large building in the village, a well-known building. The state of the office market is, I mean, generally is well-known. This building is no different. As you see on the appeal form, it was appraised for $12 million back in 2019. I have no doubt in my mind that that value would be less than that today. So the information that I have would explain that and show that. This is something we are, the firm that I work for, while we are not appraisers, we are trained in appraisal methodology. This is what we do all day, every day. So that's kind of the, why I would object and to, have the taxpayers' case be heard. And then also, talking about bringing in other experts, that would be an additional expense on both sides as well. So that's kind of, again, that's the basis of my objection.
I'll guarantee you what you got in those folders there that you want to pass out to us is way over our heads in understanding. You are an educated man in that field, and we are not. That's why we're trying to recommend you to go to the next step so they understand it much better than we do.
I certainly understand.
It's fairer to you.
Okay, I certainly understand that. I would, if I am allowed to be heard today, I would certainly try my best to explain it as easily as possible, but I understand your point.
Any other questions for Mr. Willett? If there is a motion to waive and go to circuit court, I would request that the motion be stated as upholding the assessment value for the city municipal assessor.
I'll make a motion to what you just said.
So per Gary Paul, the motion would be to, one, uphold the assessment value on the property or sustain the assessor's value on the property located at 3500 Packer Drive, Ashwaubenon, Wisconsin, 54304, and waive this matter to the circuit court. That is the motion.
I'll second it.
Second by Jay. Any other questions or discussion? All the motion, all those in favor, say aye. I'm sorry.
We do a roll call
We got to
vote.
do.
I'm sorry, okay.
President Kardasky,
Yes.
Trustee Service,
Yes.
Trustee Paul,
Yes.
Trustee Zerbal,
Yes.
Trustee Atkinson,
Yes.
Trustee Krieger,
Yes.
Trustee Flukie, and clerk said yes also. If you could come up and sign. Yep. You could sign saying that you received this notice of determination. Second copy is yours. And then, you're gonna sign. This waiver form, so he then walks away with it, who signs it? Okay. And then this, he gets a copy, so he can take these. Okay, Paul?
If there's also, which timeline do I follow? Because there's two, right, but based on this, we would follow the municipality, this assessment claim, which is January 31st, but based on the waiver, it's 30 or 60 days.
I think it's the,
Because those are two different actions.
thank you. Well, right, so if the board, let's say this, if the board denied the claim to actually, or the hearing denied it, you could argue mine to take the circuit court within so much time. The waiver
just need
60 days.
a copy.
Right, but,
Okay,
right, so
So you're gonna do
we impute the case,
approved,
this doesn't need to be signed,
and then a reason why.
because they never even heard of it.
The,
just a sentence.
Right, yeah, the waiver does.
Assessment
but
valuation
there's no
should be
signature.
sent. Should be sent.
Right, but receiving,
Right,
no,
so they-
I signed her copy.
Correct, but they upheld, so we have to do by law, they have to uphold or have to sustain the value.
That's not, I've had multiple VOA to circuit court, and I've never gotten a board of review determination. I've always gotten just the waiver because there
I don't
wasn't,
think you have to get a determination. It's just the waiver.
right, but,
It's just courtesy copy.
well, but I signed that there was a determination that they upheld the value, but there was nothing to uphold, there wasn't a hearing.
I think by
You
law,
didn't
they have
sign
to
this.
sustain, I can go, they have to sustain the value before it goes to certain corporate waiver review.
I'm just saying, I think from a process standpoint, there's two different timelines that,
Yeah, I agree. So
so,
what are we signing here?
This is the waiver.
Right. What did you say, Dan?
so you had two copies of this, and I signed that I received that, because this is the notice of board review determination that you upheld the value. But this,
I get everything. Notice of board determination review. Yeah, I agree with you.
so I don't need this, because I need to follow this timeline.
Yeah, unless you want a courtesy copy.
See, each municipality is different.
Okay, so I need to follow this timeline for the, okay, I just
Correct.
want to make sure, because they're different dates.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, you're
Okay.
not appealing the determination, because we didn't have the hearing. You're
Right.
commencing the action.
Right.
from the hearing, sir.
Yeah, okay, but I just want to make sure I understood, because typically they just hand out this.
Correct. I agree with you.
All right.
Thank
Very
you,
much
Mr.
appreciate your
Miller.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you for traveling up.
Yes, thank you.
I enjoy it up here. I went to my first Packers game 3 weeks ago,
Oh, nice.
so it was a cool experience.
Excellent.
Come back for the draft.
Yeah, come back for the draft.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be quite the sight.
Wait.
If I had a guess, you would probably tell me if there was a state staff, if there was a state staff.
Chris or Paul, do we have any other objections or anybody else?
Not so far.
Okay. All right, if there's no other objections, I would welcome a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second?
Motion and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody.